Bop, 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 bop. Bop, 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 bop. Bop, bum, 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 bum. All right. Warning. The following program is recorded live and is not intended for children. This program may contain dark and graphic content that may be distressing for most viewers and against the terms of service for most mainstream platforms. The themes and opinions expressed in this program should be considered entirely fictional and should not be used for political or academic purposes. Facts are not checked. No sources or citations will be provided. Should you choose to redistribute, please do so only in good faith and without bots. Thank you again for joining us. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome back to Rainbows and Razor Blades, a show from the void. By the Gregorian calendar, it is currently the third day in the first month, the month of January, in the year of the Lord, 2021. On today's episode of Rainbows and Razor Blades, we're going to talk a little bit about some fiction. We're going to talk a little bit about religion. We're going to talk a lot about the news. We didn't upload yesterday because in the two takes, I usually only do one take, but in the two takes that I went for it, both times I said something that was morally compromising in a way that I'm no longer willing to put on the internet. um, we're approaching about noon right now. We'll probably go until about 2 today. And I really appreciate you guys for joining. There's more to come. So let's just jump right into it. So let's switch over to fiction. The year is 20XX and cyborgs reign supreme. Global World War III is over. Okay, so in this chapter, so Samar, to catch you up. So he goes from the jungle, or he escapes on like a bike chase with his weird quasi father figure, kind of just like weird fella who he's hanging out with, and they go around and they try to like sort through the poop for things of value, like things that like were that they can scavenge, like metal or gems, but they got to go in the poop first. So Samar, um, he he escapes kind of like the genocide process in a way, but the oppressive, slow ghettoization process is very different than that. Boop, 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 bop, 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 bop. So he escapes the ghetto, and the way he escapes the ghetto is by swimming literally through a river of shit underwater into a pipe, holding this orb that is the most valuable thing in the universe, and well, it's one of the 5 major powerful items in the universe. Anyways, but his character is the most powerful. So he literally goes up this thing that they call the dirt pipe because most of the time dirt comes out of it. That's what it's designed for. That's the whole purpose of it. It's a big, big fucking pipe. Most of the time, it's just a trickle. You know, if it's not raining, they sometimes they'll with the light going. You know, huge, massive stone structures. Like it's like 1,000 feet up to the top of the dam. Good luck getting up that tide wall because that's what it is. It's a tide wall, and it's like the city has already sunk below sea level at this portion. It's pretty good at holding. It's called the levee system. You know, this is where the levee is, and so he gets from the outer part of the levee, like the sea facing jungle, and gets into the city. Now, from the perspective of a narrator, a little bit complicated. But from the perspective of the character, it is pretty simple. Directive: go up, right? Level up, get more power. You stop having people hold you back, even if they think that they're for your own good. Like there's this maternal figure in the very first, and she's holding this kid's arm really tight. She digs her claws in just a little bit because he's trying to yank free, and she's talking and laughing with this other woman, right? And they're laughing. I've probably told this story 100 times. I should just write it. Like the story isn't even written anywhere yet. So Anyways, he bites this woman's arm, runs to try to help the grown men push a truck up, and then speeds off on this bike with this dude just at the last moment where they're trying to like punish him for kicking them in the face and crawling up them. It's a whole different story. Oh man, there's so much to it. I just like I'm sorry guys, my brain is really it's not capable of staying in one chapter. It all loads at the same time. It's just how it is. There's different screens in it, like a video game, but it's all one game. It's all one disc just spinning around at random. Okay, so there's so much going on in my head. It's really hard for me to verbalize. And but anyway, so the object that he gets is from what they call the shit drawer. And it's a word he's very familiar with. And it's one of the few kanji symbols that he knows and he can read. So he just like looks up and he's so pissed because like he's being ignored because he's kind of trying to cut the line. I was here first, fool. But that's not really true. He cut in at a 90-degree angle. The line went around the corner and he just kind of like got in when the pig cart had to go passing. And he just kind of appeared. I was here, fool. So he gets up and he tries to like trade in for some tokens. These are last week's tokens. And the guy takes them and just immediately furnaces them. Samar is like, hey. It like says, do not reach across the line again. And it's like a yellow line. And it's like, you're not allowed. It's a trade line. You're not allowed to reach. 4 seconds. I have these. And he puts them down. The timer stops. Looks at them. Decides they're worthless. They're plastic. He's trying to fleece the man. And he doesn't get away with it. So he gets so pissed, he rages that he kicks the guy's stall and like it shakes the whole thing. And like this guy's got like these really, really like I don't know how to explain it. Like the whole table is off the ground. It's got like shock absorbers, so nothing moves on the table. This dude's doing like surgery on it basically. And yeah, so he takes this object that the old man has put there on purpose, knowing that if someone knows what it is, right? It's a pretty small orb, but it's very bright, and if you grip it tighter, it's like a magic object. If you grip it tighter, it gets less light. So you can control how much light and how much intensity that it is. And so this is a pretty useful object. And it takes Samar, at first all it does is it goes on and off. And it's pretty bright. On and off. Kid, watch it with that thing. On and off. So he like leaves it in the shit drawer. Because it's like, the guy tells him how much it costs. He's like, that will be 60 tiles. Even though it's in the shit drawer. Right? Like, so Samar steals this thing. Like, he kicks, he's like, and he steals it. Right? And now he's banned from the market. Like, that's the whole point is so anyways, it's what it is. It's an old part that the man couldn't figure out what it is. That's just what he puts in there. It's like, he doesn't care. He doesn't know what it is. And he's not going to go shop it around if you want to be the guy that's crazy enough to come take all that stuff and be a shit scavenger and go try to sort it into its proper place. The market itself will pay you to do that. That is a job unexplicitly. They don't advertise it on their like networking list. Like you can't put your cybernetic brain and plug it in. It's a human intelligence that is needed because a cyborg wouldn't bother to do it. A cyborg is following cyborg directives. It's following a list of commands that it has to do in an order or it's malfunctioning. A human can malfunction all day long. That's basically what a human is. It's just a walking chaos ball that sometimes gets things done. But every so often there's enough human focus to create a cyborg and design a system as complicated as a cyborg. Or in this case, if you're kind of like midwit intelligence, you can take the old phone from the phone master and you can look at you could take the time to look rather than just picking them all up and moving them on your electric moving cart through the mud, right? Like this is like a very, very unregulated, bizarre market. And the regulated section of the market is regulated not necessarily really by the government. The government stations its men there on the outside of the gate as if they're guarding the perimeter, but it's only for show so that the normies don't think that they're not being controlled. But actually what it is that it's a private power market and it actually services some utility and the government does low-key support it. They know that it's unregulated and it's just not for normies. It's for people that have like pigs and like stuff from the jungle, because it's technically outside the city limits, but also technically in the city limits. It's the only place where, so there's security from one side, if that makes sense. Like the jungle can just spill in, but in order to get back into the city, that's when you have to go through security. So in order to get in, you have to go through security, and in order to get out, you don't have to go through security there. Like there is some allowance on purpose, right? On purpose of black market goods, like just the parts that the government, even their own citizens that are preferred citizens, right, that it's trying to claim as its own, benefits from having a hawk market of old tech, because their repair people also need materials. And if it's unlawful to buy those materials because of where they're sourced from, or the war connotations, or irradiation, or other problems, right? Chem spills are complicated, right? When it gets on a circuit board. So if you're buying used cyborg parts that are that they could be harvested from a dead cyborg, then like, yeah, you can reuse it, but don't ask where it's from. It's like it's from that market. So people have, these, like, they'll build robots, and the robots will like push things, and sometimes someone's leg will get caught in a robot. Ah, my God. It's like it's like violent scene. Like the dude just lost his fucking leg. Kane Chan's like, hey, do you hear about that guy that lost his fucking leg at the market? Like this, it's like 3 chapters later, and it's like still a story. So, it's like, you try to be pretty safe, and then they're talking about banning all track vehicles. Good, they should have banned those things years ago. Those fucking things are so unfair to the labor. Da da da. Yeah, you're making a leftist argument, and you're trying to disguise it as a safety issue. Shut up. Candy Chan is talking from the floor up to the booth. Anyways, so Samar is there, and he's looked under every machine, like the joystick machines, because he gets into the arcade. That's the first place that he goes. He's like this homeless fucking little kid, and he's just near the river. It's like it's where they've pushed him. Like, hey kid, how long you been out here? 15 minutes, fool. I mean outside. He just shakes his head. You really got nowhere else to be, do you? Plenty of places to be, fool. What do I look like? You look hungry. Cut 2. He's inside. Oh no. You let it in? Yup, I let it in. Just shakes his head. And the reason she let it in, just because she sees it as what it is. Samar's a fucking demon. This kid is what's the word? Non-deterministic? That's the word. Like this kid is non-deterministic. It's gonna go to the end. Whatever end that it chooses, whatever end that could be, it's gonna get there. It's not gonna die in an earlier chapter. She sees it as a main character. So she lets it in. And the Ohm monster basically tells it to let it in. So the thing gets brought with him, kind of like the One Ring of Power, right? Like it's going back to Mordor, but Mordor, instead of it being like Sauron's evil thing that must be destroyed, it doesn't represent evil. It represents human ingenuity and hope. And so when he brings it back, it's kind of the same as the ring, but like it isn't a destruction process at the ending, and it isn't a defeat of evil. It is kind of is, but instead of it's a summoning stone basically. It's the refractor core. That's what it's called, the refractor core and it's nanotech. That's why no one has really understood what it was and why the guy couldn't figure it out and didn't understand how complicated it was, because he couldn't bust through the glass. Like you can squeeze it in as if it's like not glass, but it also feels like glass. But if you kind of like relax a little bit, you can squeeze it in. And Samar like figures this out pretty quickly. So he steals it. And then he goes up the dirt pipe because he already knows how to swim through shit, because it's what he does for a job. Gets into the city, stumbles around homeless for a while, tries to fleece the market, fails at fleecing the market, goes into the arcade, meets Mouse, right? And Mouse and Candy Chan both put this kid to work. And because at first his first ever job in the book, is he's looking under machines for quarters because he can put them in the machines, and he doesn't give a fuck about the high scores. He's just trying to get tickets, because if he can get tickets, then he can get this thing. I don't know. I'll have to come up with a plot device for why he needs tickets. Maybe maybe it's a misperception. Candy Chan will think like, what the hell do you even need that many tickets for anyway? And she like points to like the prize board, and he says, money, fool. Nothing up there is worth anything. And he just like doesn't say anything. You better not be selling those. He like runs away. So his second job, Mouse hires him, and Mouse hires him, and the job is not just to look for the quarters under there to sell to get more points to play the one game to get more tickets. Now the point is to check both the coin return, because she teaches him about the coin return. Like, if you stick your finger in, you can find quarters. And then he starts looking under the machines. He looks everywhere. He gets every single free quarter he can. And then he brings them to there's this thing called the wash station. And so he tries to repeat the pattern. And Candy Chan says, "Hey, can you go take that kid's? That kid's been trying to get people to wash tokens and then give it back to him. He's not allowed to have tokens. He's not allowed to play these games. We already told him that. Like, why don't you just get rid of him? It's a long story. So I need you to go over there and take them." Kadoshi's like, whatever. He goes over there. Kadoshi like, "Hey," Samar says it. "Yeah, I'll wash them, but I'm only giving you half back." Samar like is dubious, but gives them all. And then he says, "I want more." Well, you get half of another half. And Kadoshi just pockets all of them and walks away. "Hey, fool." Infraction. The bot comes down. You had a deal. Candy Chan, if you're gonna fucking play with the robot. She just cackles with laughter. It may be the wrong time for a prank, but it was funny in my head. We'll have to add that in later. So he takes all. So he takes all of them, gives them to Candy Chan. She stares this kid down and feeds it to her nanobot disintegrator. Disintegrates every single token. "20 minutes. Yeah, we're almost at 20 minutes. Where are we? So the ending. So he brings this thing, right? This like squeeze orb thing, right? And he finds out that this thing is the focusing core of the telescope beacon. Like, it has to be lined up exactly, or it can't fire. It only needs to be lined up for a thing, but if it's even lined up like a little bit off, it won't be able to create the necessary power, because it has to split it and then it has to unsplit. And you can't really like, it takes 9 minutes for the beam to arrive, right? And by that point, it'll have diffused into this shape. And so the whole world is going to get this dosage of like neutrino radiation or something like that. Like the neutrino pulse. That's what it is. It's a quasar beam. It's like a quasar cannon at one fraction of a picosecond of just power, just raw, the universe moving power. And it looks like light, and it comes down like a beam of lightning. That's what it'll look like. That's only because your eyes don't know how to perceive what happens in the moments after, because reality itself is struggling to actually maintain the fabric of it. And that isn't a visual thing that your brain is prepared to do. And it isn't really something that can happen in real time. And so you're seeing only the after effect. The event has already taken place, the equivalent of an eternity ago, at the scale that it matters, because it actually only moves like one teeny little thing, but that's enough of a thing to create a massive shockwave, a tidal wave, and then also like shatter some windows, but then like also like destabilize the entire universe. The entire universe gets unstabilized. And so part of that is just like there's like a huge amounts of what's it called, like solar wind looking stuff, like aurora borealis. And so that it's like it turns from night to day, it's already night, but it turns from night to day back to night. And then there's like this like weird, like it's like a neon rave basically. It's like every color, because like the aurora borealis, like all of that, like magnetic glow, and then the whole entire thing is like this weird like lensing in and out effect, like when you're on acid, where it's like lensing in and out. But it's like the whole atmosphere is doing this, and like the ocean's doing it too, and the ocean's like glowing and like just it's really bizarre. And all of a sudden everything starts to change, and the egg hatches, and the whole tower, just like it's like the tower was like a seed, and then like a nuke going off. It just like it instantly was there, and then it like rockets up like a shroom cloud. But instead of being a shroom cloud, it's like the same type of growth that you get when Totoro tells the tree to grow, and it's like a fungus, but it's also like mixing and pulling people in like the like Uzumaki, and like where they with the spiral. And so it's like growing into this like weird tree, and allowing that to happen and facilitating that birth was the observatory like picosecond laser cannon refractor focuser. And so the question is why wasn't this thing protected, right? As like, why didn't the government know where this thing was? Well, here's the answer. It washed up on the shore. It's that simple, because it was stolen by a dude with a fighter jet plane, and then that fighter jet plane was blown out of the sky and then crashed into the ocean. And it's that simple. But they stole that thing and the egg. And then the egg washes up on the ocean, and our main character basically brings it to shore. And then the egg is placed, and then the corporation does get a hold of it, which like no surprise. But then they grow it in its little tank, and they allow it. They do like experiments on it. They like allow it to exist, but actually they're pretty sure now that they've done experiments that they're not allowing it to exist. It's allowing them to exist, because it seems to know everything. It's like this, it's not even like the smartest thing in the universe. It is something from a different dimension, and it cannot be comprehended. And when the quasar pulse happens, that dimension itself shifts. Like it's like what's that one? Steins Gate, maybe. And then they like changes like a little bit, like the mandala effect meme with the like the fruit of the loom meme. But then what changes is it's like a lot. Like I said, like the end of like Uzumaki, where like but like with a fungus tree, and like all the people's cybernetic brains start like growing together, and all of like the like corpses get like twisted into one. And because we already saw that with the giant leech Cthulhu, where it like sucks the bodies into the eternal leeches, and the leeches grow into Cthulhu, and then Cthulhu comes to Earth, because it's like an alien, but from like the DMT dimension. And so Samar has this object because he just happened upon it, because the old man kind of knew, because he was told to know by the alien, because the alien doesn't have to work in time. Like it doesn't, like it can do anything it wants. It just, we have to play by the rules of time. So it has to engineer a very complicated machine to get it there, but it always can do that because it doesn't have to worry about time. It has endless time to just do that. So it does, because it's God. It's like, that's the whole point of the book. It's like you bring God to Earth, but it's monstrosity. It's it is whatever the eternal spiral is. And but yeah, it doesn't affect everybody. And I forget that there's like this, I forget where it's from, but I've seen it before, where like the changing, like it moves like a laser beam, like a tidal wave, but without the like front of the tidal wave. Like it's just like a wave of energy, and everything goes back to, like, you know what, you want to know where it's from? It's the end of the Timmy Turner show, where like everything goes back to normal. That's kind of like the realm of level of magic that the world starts ripping itself apart to at the very end of the book. Well, yeah, like that's the climax. Like it's like you think that it's gonna be this hurricane that is formed by like a weather anomaly weapon that creates a giant hurricane that brings in gas from a offshore drilling, not even, it's like it's similar apparatus, but it's all floating autonomous drone bots that harvest a growing algae. It's like the night algae. It grows mostly at night. The sun usually kills it, but that doesn't really matter because it will just regrow because it's not like normal algae, and it doesn't really like kill it. It just puts it into like a dormant state, but it grows at night. When it doesn't have radiation, it just like eats whatever pollution is in the ocean. But here's the thing: it releases a shit ton of methane, like a stupid fucking amount of like. And so what they do in order to combat that is they release like metric kilotons of like carbon soda ash or something like that into the ocean, and then that somehow neutralizes it or something. That's not scientifically accurate at all. I don't think, but it doesn't matter because it's fictional and it's futuristic. And so the squids have floated out of the ocean because they don't like it in there. So they glow, and then they blow into shore while they're glowing at night, and then they stick and they smell horrible, and then they harden into like like if you threw a jellyfish at a wall and it crusted on there, then you had to go power wash it off because it kept blowing into shore. The damned float squids. That's chapter 1 actually. And so the hurricane is like, it's like float squids and fire from methane and glass from like the windows and like everywhere else. So it's like fire and razor blades hurricane. And like people will like think that's the ending. Like, no. No. It gets so much more epic. And then at the end of that, that's when the corpses start talking. There's like this event, like during the eye of the storm, where it's like, now you shall receive us. Like, we are one, we are you. Like, it's like the Borg, like the Borg trying to take over. It's like, it's not quite communism. It's more complicated than that. And it's more naturalistic than it is a human indictment on a failed system of quasi-government. It's that too, but only through the dystopian lens of a non-collectivist dystopia that isn't quite predicated on capitalism, but where capitalism still does last, but it's like dynastic. It's like we're back to where poor is imposed as a theism by God, decree, heaven mandate, right? The daimyo is to be revered out of respect. It isn't about how much money the daimyo necessarily makes. Some of the daimyo families are broken. Everyone kind of just knows it, but they're still daimyo families. And that's just like, that's by God. That's by the system. And so breaking that system comes the old shogunate. And so when the old shogunate goes to war at the ending, and there's like a coup d'etat basically, and like a revolt, and like more people than you would think get killed. Like they all face off like two armies. And then like boop, 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 bop, 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 they all shoot each other. But then the tidal wave comes because it's like it's a fucking hurricane, and it pushes the ocean in with wind, and the ocean doesn't stop coming. It just doesn't. So they have to evacuate. So everyone leaves, and so they have to leave their dead on the battlefield. That's fucked up. And then also the leeches start coming out, and like it comes out everywhere all at once. Like once the places that don't usually get wet, like every time it rains, there's leeches on the streets, right? When it rains a lot and it floods, there's so many leeches that you can lose a leg going in because they're more like piranhas, right? They have like razor teeth that spin. So if it gets on you, they're trying to get into your blood, and they will. And like if you don't stop that from happening, then it's gonna go in your leg. And like generally speaking, at that point, it's gonna hurt a lot. 2, you're gonna die. So these are like deadly things. So like flooding is no joke. And you can control them. Like they just, again, same like magical soda ash, like nanobots. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Although nanobots to the environment would probably be a bad idea. Well, certain nanobots are like pesticides, but for the leeches, leechicide. We'll have to come up with a better name of it. And so those things all come out. Every single sewer, every single wall, anywhere that is a pipe. All the pipes in that part of the city burst open. And it floods the street with leech monsters, and the tentacles all start to form together, and like they all start swimming under, and then swimming, and then swimming back, and then swimming, and then swimming back, and then they all start like multiplying and like grabbing onto each other and like forming these tentacles, and then the tentacles start like, grabbing the dead and like going all down their throat and out their eyes, and then they start making the dead talk through these like terrifying demonic voices that's like echoed like. It's like the end of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's like it's Gotham, and they're like, it's like and some with like cyborg parts have like glowing eyes, so it's like because they're cyborgs, and also glowing eyes is like eldritch horror, I think is the genre. So, anyways, it sucks them all out into the abyss, and it takes their bodies and it rips them apart for flesh, and then it incorporates that flesh into basically regrouping itself into that, like it takes our matter and it turns it into its matter, and then it grows into giant Leech Cthulhu, and then it starts coming bom 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 bom, right? And then like, so all the people are like, oh, Tuskatay, and but it's too late. It's like Godzilla. You can't stop it. So then the way that they stop it is like they try to like nuke it, and obviously like that doesn't really do anything. And so then they try then they try like a missile attacks. That doesn't really do anything. But thankfully, it's like far enough that they have like, I don't know, like 6 hours before it arrives or something like that, like in the final chapter. And so then it's like during the hurricane, they have to like stabilize it, get the thing to the boat to get the boat back to shore. This is where it falls apart. Like it hasn't gotten this far, but now it's gotten far enough to at least have an excuse to get the focusing crystal. Like, holy shit, kid, that's the focusing crystal. Like we've been wondering where that thing went. Like, do you have any idea what that thing is? And then he's like, yeah. So he climbs the entire building. Like the entire building is on fire and dripping melting wax. That's what it looks like anyways. It's a big black tower. It looks like if you're melting a black candle. That's what I want it to look like. Like, but not quite 9/11-y, but like if you were to light a lily or a lotus flower on fire and then have it melt down into what it's made out of, which is wax, or the equivalent of like plastic, like, because it's this see-through, like really beautiful, like blooming, huge, and I'm talking huge sculpture, like the size of the wings of a spinning like wind turbine, but like black and like translucent. And the idea is to catch a solar array. It doesn't actually work, but it's nice propaganda for the top of the Lotus Tower, right? Because they bloom it in the sun and it looks just absolutely gorgeous. And people like think that that's like going to give them endless energy, and like it makes them, it's propaganda, because it actually takes a lot of electricity, and it never blooms in the rain, and it's barely ever sunny, so you barely ever see the thing bloom, which is kind of also a demoralization propaganda, which they use to rule, because they don't want people to be happy, because if they're happy, they start to look into their ethnic sources and they start to worship daimyos, and then they lose control to the Yakuza, which is the other half of the city, and there's always a bickering match between basically two governments layered on top of each other. The one that there's three actually. There's the one that presents itself as legitimate that isn't. There's the one that is legitimate and presents itself as legitimate, and then there's the one that is illegitimate and doesn't try to present itself. And there's rays of criminality in between. I have to take a picture of this. It's freaking me out. I hate when I see faces in objects. This is like the most schizo thing about me. Like, I swear to God, it looks like there's like a Cyclops eye, and that's like a weird, deformed AI tried to create it but couldn't, tongue mouth thing. And then it's wearing like a bonnet. Is that the word for a hat? Like a fez? I forget what the word is. But there's like a little like pumpkin lid on the top, and then like there's like a cap, and then like, but like look at its eye. That's like, it's like a cyborg with its tongue, or not cyborg, a Cyclops. I don't like it. I'm not gonna show you all, but it's like very. I don't like it. I kind of like it a lot, so I didn't want to destroy it. I see faces in just about everything, faces and characters and everything else like that. In everything, I see it like if I look for it, especially. Sometimes even when I'm not looking for it, it just jumps out at me. I'm like, oh geez, man, that's the most schizo thing about me for sure. For sure. Not the paranoia, right? Anyways, or the complete inability to keep a coherent thought moving. The train is going around in a circle, it's still a train. Anyways, where were we? Right. So Leech Cthulhu comes, and Samar has to climb the tower while the tower is melting, and he has to like look up and like dodge. It's like a video game, like, oh god, it's Ezio Auditore, but like it's like a climbing puzzle. There's a couple of those, but I don't think any of them are like actively trying to pour stuff down on you. Anyways, would be fun. I should look at like what new good movement games there are. Like, movement games are hard to find, like Mirror's Edge was garbage. Some people love it and hate that opinion, but I think it was trash. Otherwise, more people would still be running it. Team Fortress 2. That's an example of a game that has good movement. Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. That game's got really good movement. That game's got pretty damn good movement. It's 3-dimensional movement makes it a lot more fascinating to me, and it is pretty technical actually when you get right down to it. It's like third. Yeah, you watch this kid speed run it. I forget how fast he does the whole game, but it's fast. And the physics and the collision it's goofy, but like it's pretty precise, like in a way. And then what other games are like good movement? Like the first, second, and third Assassin's Creed maybe. Everything after that seems a little weird to me. Let's see what else. Skyrim was trash, honestly. So like as a comparison to something that I didn't find impressive, like people liked the game. Don't get me wrong, it's a fun game. I played a lot of it, but the movement in that game is utter trash. Mario, great movement. Maybe some of the best movement. Like the original, like spin jump. The technical proficiency that it takes, man. That's like threading a needle every time. It's insanity. And it's very, like I said, it's very precise and technical. The King, Super Smash Brothers Melee. It's a different type of open world, obviously, or it's a bit not open world, closed world, obviously, but like still really good movement. I have my doubts about World of Warcraft being good movement. I think that if it was one generation more powerful, it would have been really, really good movement. But for what it was at the time, it was very good. I liked it a lot, especially once the 3D like maneuverability came out. Then it became like a different story, especially when they started giving moves that actually were based on 3D. Yeah, Blizzard understands movement. No apology to Blizzard morally for mentioning them. Like I feel like they're like canceled or something. Maybe that's just me. I have no idea. I need water. Gotta blow the genie's out. Trying to think of other games with good movement. There was that Batman game, Arkham maybe, Arkham Asylum. Was that it? That was all right. I was not impressed at all by Mirror's Edge. Some people have a different opinion about that, but personally, I didn't find that game very appealing. Same with all the Call of Duty games. Like, I don't think that some of those games, like I think Black Ops maybe, and I could be wrong about that, but like Black Ops 2 maybe, one of them had like pretty damn good movement, like just surprisingly good. But I don't remember which one it was. I forget which one it is, but like some of the Spider-Man games have really good movement. Most of them are just utter trash. You just kind of like, yeah, it's just goofy. It works. Like they're good games, but they're goofy. Trying to think like what else is like really good movement. People claim Halo, but I've never felt that way about it. Like I don't think Halo's movement is bad. I just never thought of that game as like a movement game, I guess. Like it's a positioning game for sure. It's definitely, I think, the predecessor of games like Overwatch, maybe. You know, a game I've never played that people claim has great movement is Fortnite. I've never played that game. Diablo, a little bit different because it's like a runner game. Never was really that impressed with that. I'm trying to think of like flying games and stuff like that. There aren't really that, to my knowledge, good flying games. Because they're just hard to build because like it's hard to build that. You know, a game has garbage movement, kind of on purpose, is like with the cars and they're floating and Left 4 Dead. How is that movement? Left 4 Dead 2, I believe, had okay movement. Grand Theft Auto, those games do not have good movement. You want those games to have good movement, and they don't. It's like fuck, man. I guess that's not really true. Some of them do. There's a Rocket Car. I've never played that. Minecraft has incredible movement. Minecraft may have the best movement. I love Minecraft. I think it's a little janky, but you can't watch Dream or any of these other pro personality type fucking kids with their keyboards play that game and not be like, bruh, like that game is incredible. Like watch, what the heck's his name, Future Pig. It was this kid who died from cancer. It's like a real story, and he was like the best Sky Wars, Bed Wars player of all time. Undisputed Potato King. Technoblade, that's his name. Yeah, what a riot. Anyways, I think that's all for now, guys. We will move on now to the headlines, but I may need a small break because it's quite the universe simulation. So he brings, anyway, so to finish off, Samar brings the focusing crystal to the observatory tower, which is like this like classified information area, UFO research level classified that no one knows about, but they know about it now. We'll have to figure out how that is, or why that is. Who cares? We'll come up with some reason. And yeah, we'll have to keep working on it. But it's a focusing crystal, and it allows the picosecond nanopulse thing. We'll have to come up with the quasar gun. All right. Thanks for joining. We'll be right back after this. You know what games did not have good movement? Sonic games, and like it sucks because like you would have really wanted those games to have had good movement. Like the 3D ones, I mean, those things were utter trash to be honest. Like they were a lot of fun. I loved playing those games. Feeding my Chin Chow or whatever the hell its name is. Yeah. Welcome back to Rainbows and Razor Blades. On today's episode, we're gonna read the news. You snooze, you lose if you don't read the news. So we're gonna follow the clues while we read up on the news. Okay, whatever. This is all yesterday's news. That's why we gotta refresh the page and go to top. Okay, here we go. Twitter employees bring their own toilet paper on Elon Musk cuts costs. Whatever, that's a non-story. Lawyer who represented churches in battle over COVID mandates charged with intimidating judge. What? Lawyers who represented churches in battle over COVID mandates charged with intimidating judge. Yeah, I mean, like, charged is pretty fucking serious. That's we could see what that's about. So the reason why the Twitter employees bringing their own toilet paper is not work, or is not it's not news, like it's not a story, is because the story it's fatigued, right? Like we understand Elon Musk took over Twitter. It's really bad. He's such a bad guy. He's basically Trump 2.0. Oh no. Look at the demagogue. Boo, right? And it's also a labor's issue and a wages issue and all the other fucking issues. But it's also like those poor programmers, those poor successful people. But mostly it's just like, how outrageous. What a bad man. Orange man bad, but now it's just like spaceman bad, South African white dude bad. Like, who fucking cares about Twitter? Twitter employees bring their own toilet paper. Good for them. I bring my own toilet paper because I'm autistic. Lawyer who represented churches in battle over COVID mandates charged with intimidating judges. Yeah, this is more of a story. Yeah, ad blocker is definitely detected. A lawyer allegedly involved in a surveillance campaign that targeted a judge has been charged with intimidating a justice system participant and obstruction of justice. Yeah, that's the whole thing. 55-year-old John Carpe was picked up in Calgary after a Canada-wide warrant was issued for his arrest. I was wondering why I hadn't really heard of this exact charge. Intimidating a justice system participant. I don't know if there is an equivalent in America. I thought it was a little bit strange. A group representing, I thought it was actually good. I just was like, oh, interesting. He's accused of hiring a private investigation firm to tail the dude. That's kind of fucked up. I accept full responsibility and sole responsibility for my decision to retain private investigation firms for observation of public officials. I'm not really sure that's unlawful. At least in my country. Deeply concerned and troubled by the surveillance. He described being followed after leaving the courthouse. It's public information. They were hired for a clear purpose of gathering what was hoped to be potentially embarrassing information in relation to compliance with COVID public health restrictions. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unnerving, but that's the price you pay for living in a society. But like, actually, it's probably not unlawful. I have no idea about Canada, right? That it's more newsworthy because it's in Canada, because it removes the Americanism where you could just be like, well, it's the refrain, all the hand wringing of the law, the jackbooting and the bootlicking, etc. Attorney General Denise Attorney General D. Nice George has been terminated. We read about that yesterday. It's a black woman, and I forgot why. Maybe because of the new administration, I don't really remember, but I didn't care either. Police officer arrested for negligent homicide after high-speed pursuit left innocent teens dead. So why didn't he terminate pursuit? Striking and killing two teenager girls chasing a suspect. Was it a black dude suspect? Is that why we're seeing a black dude? Or is this unrelated nonsense? Innocent until proven guilty, all persons are presumed. Police. Alright, well, we'll get back to who this guy is later. Police struck the victim's car, pushing it into the median of the highway. Two of the occupants, a 17 and a 16-year-old, died. And a third victim, brother, was taken in critical condition. So three people got their lives fucked up. Two lost them. That's terrible. Investigators reviewed dashcam footage and further footage from the crash before deciding to arrest the dude who's the cop. For these kids to not have been able to start the new year is inexcusable, but we'll follow the facts first. So where's the footage? Did they release the footage? Hey, Tony, why don't you go after the black piece of shit who stole the vehicle, then started the chase, which in turn caused the crash, which led to the loss of life? Well, I mean, that is the question. That really, really is the question. I wouldn't really say black piece of shit. I think that's unreasonable because it makes it about race where it doesn't need to be. Unless the refrain and the rhetoric there is, oh, no, never mind. It's not. It's just racism. I'm not going to make an apology for it. Found the bootlicker. Yep. May the Lord Jesus Christ have mercy on your soul. Please, oh God, shower this person with you convicting power through the Holy Spirit. Show this person love that he too will come a saving knowledge through Jesus Christ. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. This is a robot. Almost certainly a robot. Hey, Tony, why not see that he is arraigned? Then the judge asked him guilty or not guilty. Tony Clayton is the type of DA we need more of. Easy on crimes committed by his voter base. Oh, shit. This gets a little involved, but the bottom line is that police and other emergency vehicles have exemptions to traffic laws. Yeah, but, I mean, that is true. But that isn't what the news... The question is why did they charge him? Like, where... Because they're charging him with negligent homicide. That means that he must have been doing something so fucking crazy that he is potentially guilty and must be at least held to answer in court for their deaths. That may be appropriate in this case. I haven't seen it. Because who actually struck the people? Says witnesses said that the cop ran a red light and that the light had been red for 20 seconds when his police unit reached the intersection. He was going 86 miles an hour when he ran a red light. That cop has a lot of questions to answer pertaining to his speed and sheer negligence. The DA said, the public can rest assured we will follow the facts. Yeah. And that's the thing. It may be appropriate. There's really no reason that you're going that fast. Yeah, he might get away. But now these people are dead because you were just like trying to catch some dude. So now I'm not indicting him as if he's guilty. Right? I just know that there's answers that he's going to have to be questioned and give answers to. There's questions. And there's enough questions, I think, to hold, if not him in a personal capacity, then the lawyers and the teams of policymakers behind this. Because a lot of places have, like, do not pursue, right, issuance of protocol, you know? And there's probably some protocol about, well, if you have your lights on and you look both ways and you know it's safe, you can probably go through a red light. But not if you just blow through at 83. I get human error. I do. But there should be no policy that allows for that level of human error. Hence why he's been arrested. Yeah, because it does get complicated because cops don't have to follow the law, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't acting in a reckless disregard way. Okay, Idaho murder suspect was identified through DNA using genealogy database. Cool. We're gonna see more of those headlines. It started before the Golden State Killer, I think, but they really made a big deal out of it with the Golden State Killer. Human left on side of Colorado interstate by rideshare driver. I could be wrong. It could have just been that the Golden State Killer was the first. Woman left on side of because that's the story. Colorado interstate by rideshare driver hit by two vehicles and killed. Well, there's got to be more to this story. Because it isn't unlawful to just kick people out of your car. But it is unlawful to kick people out of your car negligently. The driver pulled over and the passengers who'd chosen to end the ride paid and got out. Ooh, this seems like a civil matter. Now that's what this guy is saying. Likely a civil case. With the details in the article, it sounds like she was drunk, puked in the rideshare vehicle, and her friends wanted to end the ride and get out. Poor decision to leave them on the side of the highway, but if the passenger chose to end the ride, could the driver also get in trouble for not stopping immediately? I'm not sure. I think that you're, I don't know. This is an interesting one. I'm surprised that this hasn't been talked about earlier. Because, like, on one hand, like, you want to hold people accountable for the idiocy that it is leaving people on the side of a highway. On the other side of that argument is like, well, wait, why actually can't you drop someone off on the side of the highway? I've been dropped on the side of the highway. Is that inherently, like left on the side of a highway? Like, you just left them on the side of the highway? Like, I don't know. I don't know. The driver didn't let them off on the side of a highway. He pulled over so they could puke. They canceled the ride from outside the car, and it's not his job to wrestle them back into his car for their safety. He never intended to leave them. He stopped to keep driving them. Canceling the ride shows they intended not to ride in the car to safety. The friend and deceased victim hold the blame as well. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like, this is my position on it, knowing no other facts. But that's knowing no other facts. I think the order it happened is important. If they ask to stop the car, I don't really think so. Calling 911, drunk girls on the side of the road. Yeah, that's a tough position to be in because you don't want to call the cops and you don't want to normalize calling the cops either. But at the same time, you don't want these drunk idiots to, like, die. All right, my partner's calling me, so we'll pick back up later. Bye. Hi, babe. Hold on, let me